As you know, the weather is so important when it comes to the launch window, whether it's for a satellite or whether it's for the Artemis II mission. And now joining me is Mark Berger from the 45th Weather Squadron. He's going to be the meteorologist and part of the team at the launch that can give it a go or lead to it having to be scrubbed because of weather. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you for having me, Meredith.
All right, let's get right to it. The million-dollar question is, what would it take to scrub a launch when it comes to the weather? And a little bit about your job too and what goes into the forecast the day of a launch.
Okay, absolutely. So a lot of things is the short answer to that in terms of weather. So there's really two sets of rules that we look at for any launch attempt, whether, like you said, it's Artemis or whether it's a Falcon 9 Starlink mission. And in many cases, those rules will be pretty similar, at least the so-called lightning launch commit criteria, which are universal. So that's basically anything that could trigger a lightning strike on ascent would be a no-go condition. So that's certainly types of clouds fall in that category, and then the obvious thunderstorms in proximity of the flight path would be another one. But also each vehicle has its own what are termed user constraints, which means that they're specific just to the weather. So for Artemis, a big one happens to be winds. All launch vehicles do have wind constraints, but in some ways they're a little bit more constrictive when we look at Artemis. And so that's one of the issues that we'll be watching on the day of launch. That looks to be currently one of the more preeminent concerns for us for maintaining a go posture during the launch countdown.
How fast do you have to make that decision? Or is it something where you do a briefing in the morning and then you do a briefing closer to? Is it a series of briefings, or maybe in the morning it still looks good so you give it a chance? Because I know there is a 2-hour launch window that they have to actually push that green button.
Indeed. So Meredith, it really is all about the preparation. So the weather preparation and deliverables for a mission like this actually began months ago. So we had a number of wet rehearsals, wet dress rehearsals, or exercises, basically where we went through a faux countdown, as you will, and continued to press forward and kind of see how the day of launch weather on those simulations panned out. So that aspect of things and even getting the vehicle to the pad required a lot of weather input. And in fact, a sensitivity to winds, clouds, lightning, all of that is a potential violator for that. On the day of launch, there's actually a number of briefings leading up to that and during it. So it all really starts with a tanking briefing to the launch director. And based off of the conditions for weather, among other constraints, she will either give her go or no go to proceed from there. And tanking sets the stage for a successful launch because obviously we need to have fuel on board the rocket in order to have a liftoff. So that particular tanking briefing also has weather constraints associated with it. And then as we go through the countdown, again, a 2-hour launch window. So again, depending on the potential weather issue, we could be no go for the entirety of that, or it could just be at parts of that launch window, or maybe none at all. We could be go through the entirety of it.
Now, Mark, is there a situation ever where you're in the countdown, we're maybe 10 seconds out or whatever, that the weather could actually make you abort mission last second? How does that work?
Absolutely, and we've had that in the past with an astronaut mission. Crew 11, which happened last summer, was one such case where we had the remnants of a storm that crossed just within unacceptable threshold. So the launch was no go by the weather officer, and that scrubbed the launch for the day. When it comes to Artemis, of course, that's a possibility too. But what's unique about this particular vehicle is we also have various wind constraints that we have to look at for an abort situation. So this would be if the vehicle actually does have its engines ignite, it lifts off the pad, and if something goes wrong on the ascent near the ground, we need to make sure that the abort system will eject the astronauts and their capsule into the water, which is what it's designed to do, not onto land. So we will be monitoring particular wind direction and speeds through a layer of the atmosphere to ensure that we are go for that particular constraint too. So it's not always about just getting to liftoff, but it's also what happens in the seconds after liftoff to make sure that the astronauts are safe.
Well, we're hoping for that as always whenever we have a launch. But It sounds like this is a very stressful job. You could be the best at your craft, but still, when it comes to making that decision, especially when human lives are involved, I'm sure you get an emotional roller coaster and you have to really just focus on doing your job, right?
Indeed, and this launch obviously is a bit higher visibility. I mean, we're sending astronauts on a slingshot around the moon, so that's something we have not done since the early 1970s. And so there are a lot of eyes on this mission. But at the end of the day, we treat it like any other launch. Whether it's astronauts going into a slingshot around the moon, or if it's delivering Starlinks to low Earth orbit. Many of the same rules that we look for weather and the user constraints on the vehicle are all ones that we analyze for every launch countdown. Just this one also happens to be a bit longer in terms of the length of the countdown compared to most other vehicles as well.
That's so fascinating. How do you feel being in this role? I mean, have you always wanted to be a meteorologist? And now here you are as a meteorologist, but whoa, you're actually doing forecasts for rocket ships.
Yeah, absolutely. So, growing up in Kansas, a place that's known for weather, I was also really big into amateur astronomy as a kid. And so I was in school when the Challenger explosion happened. And that was one of the markers for me wanting to get involved more with the space program. And so this job really offers the perfect marriage of meteorology and also, of course, the interest in space. So it's a very long-standing issue for me, a long-standing passion. So I'm really excited to be a part of it in this way.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you think people would find fascinating, or some secrets behind the scenes about your job that maybe someone doesn't realize when you're stepping up to the plate? I'm a baseball fan, so that's why I'm saying that to get ready for launch day.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that most people see the day of launch and they judge, the success or the outcome just on one launch attempt. But the reality, whether it be for the launch team or the meteorologist involved, and my team that I work with for the weather support, this operation began months ago, and probably 98, 97% of the workload is actually in the preparation phase of this. And so, again, while the launch is the most glamorous, it's only one component to the entire success of the mission, one that we've been preparing for months.
Well, we wish you and your team all the best of luck and, those nice peaceful vibes as we get that countdown going. So, Mark Berger, thank you so much for joining us from the 45th Weather Squadron, Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center. So exciting. And thank you for what all of you and your team are doing and continue to do for our launches and for our nation as well.
All right. Thank you, Meredith, for having me. Go Artemis.
Go Artemis.